Hello and welcome to this episode of T-Tech. Today we're looking at how to maintain Windows 10's performance over time. I do hope you enjoy this one, and let's get into it. Hello and welcome to this episode of T-Tech. Today we're looking at how we maintain Windows 10's performance over time. So the first thing I would tell you is how to properly delete a file. So I know you're thinking, well, I already know how to delete a file. What are you talking about? Well, I have this text file up here, and it just has some text in it. This goes for any file, though. If I right-click and I delete, if you look in your trash bin, most times you'll think it's gone, but if you look in your trash bin, it is still there. So the reason it's important is over time the recycle bin can get filled up and it still takes up space on your computer's hard drive, and that slows down Windows over time, and it also contributes to fragmentation of the file system in Windows. So what you want to do is just go in there and you want to right click and delete, and just delete that file. That way, when you delete files over time, your disk space won't fill up, and you'll avoid having slow performance that way. So, speaking of disk space, you want to open up here, down to your Start menu, or just search here. Search for PC, and you want to go ahead and click this PC app. If you're on Windows 7, go to My Computer, or Windows XP if you're still on that, which for some cases you may still be. Let's bring this up here a little bit. Alright. What I want you to look at is the bar here. And what we want to do is right click and go to Properties. You want to make sure used space here, 48 gigs. If you look here at the visualization in the center of this menu, you want to keep that maybe about halfway, is what I'd recommend, because if you get 75% or more of your drive full, you're going to start to have problems. Not just slow performance, but again, the more full the disk is, the longer it takes to find files, the more chance of updates not working for various pieces of software, and other things like that. So you do want to avoid that. And just a tip I've learned from experience: if you think this will save you disk space, don't do it. Do not push the button, because if you push it, it's going to compress files needed for Windows to start up, and you won't be able to start the computer. Done that quite a few times. Okay. So we're going to exit out of there. And the next thing, as far as keeping Windows running well, is you want to go down here to the taskbar and click Windows Security. And you want to just take a glance through here and make sure Virus and Threat Protection says OK. Account Protection says no actions needed. And same thing on the other ones. Now, the firewall is important to protect your computer from any type of hacks or access like that. And virus protection helps when files like that either get on your computer's hard drive or they come over the network you're connected to. So, as far as that goes, though, just give that a glance, and if all the checkboxes are all right, you are good to go there. So you can exit out of there. Now, the other thing I would recommend is going again to the Windows here and going to Task Manager and just hit Enter, or just click what was highlighted. When I talk about RAM, I talk about this memory here. If we go to the Performance tab, and if you don't see this on your computer, it will actually start up like that. Just hit More Details. You want to go to Performance, and again, make sure this stays below 75%. Now, it will increase when I open more applications, but if it goes above 75%, it will actually use a file on your hard drive called a page file, and that gives your computer more RAM at the expense of disk space and speed. So you don't want that to happen. That's really going to slow your performance down if that happens. So if you're running low on memory, either run less programs at once or just invest in more memory. But that's my advice there for you. Now let's see the other things under programs. If you haven't used a program in 2 months, let's say, go ahead and remove that program. So for instance, if I want to remove Audacity, I click here, go down here, click uninstall, and then click uninstall one more time. I don't want to remove that, but doing that will free up disk space. Also, in a computer's lifetime, when you're installing and uninstalling programs, it clogs up a part of Windows called the registry, and the registry holds all of the configurations for how the program works. So in the past, I used to use registry cleaners a lot, like CCleaner and other ones, and don't rely on those as much, just because sometimes they can be a little overzealous and remove too much, and some of them can cause, over time, weird errors to occur and things like that. The only time I would recommend that is if you have a ton of programs on your computer that you have not used in a long time, and your computer is already showing error messages and slow performance and things like that. But I would also recommend virus scans and things of that nature as well in that situation. Speaking of antivirus, one of the things I want to show you is Windows Defender. And this only works if you're on Windows 10. I don't know if it was on Windows 8. I think it is, but the big thing you want to do is you want to go down here to updates. You want to check for updates. Just click here and let that run. And I just ran it recently, so it shouldn't take too long to run. Yeah, I'll go ahead and maybe pause the video here. Alright, and when that's done updating, just look at last update and then look at your system time to make sure they match. And every so often, run a quick scan if you just want to use Windows Defender. The only time I'd recommend going under Scan Options and selecting Full Scan is if there was a program installed that may have claimed to be antivirus or something, and you weren't expecting to have that, and maybe you were getting a lot of pop-ups and it was just being intrusive. Or if you start going to websites and you get, like in Firefox, you start to get, this website has a problem, don't proceed, it's not safe, and maybe you just connected to public Wi-Fi, or even you're at home and you start to get those messages, I would recommend a full scan under those circumstances. Otherwise though, a quick scan is fine. Most times this has real-time protection, so the majority of the time you don't have to sit there and scan every day. Honestly, it's not necessary most times. But that's how you manage the Threat Defender. You just hit quick scan here, and it would just go ahead and scan. I just canceled it because, for time purposes. Alright, the last two things I want to show you have to do with disk cleanup. So we're going to go ahead and type disk cleanup and hit enter. And this scans files on the hard drive that are safe to delete, again to save space. So what you want to do is check all of these boxes here. Most of them are safe to check. You may not want to check downloads because any files you download will be deleted. So I'm going to leave that one unchecked. Recycle bin, like I just said, we can check that one. Temporary files is fine, as well as thumbnails. So we'll go ahead, and you can see already we're going to gain 428 megabytes. And we'll hit OK. And it's safe to delete them, so we're going to delete files. And then it will go ahead and clean them up. The time does vary, but because there wasn't a huge amount of files to clean up, it's very quick. You may not even, as you just saw, see the bar get all the way over. Now, we're going to look at Disk Defragmenter as well, but we're not going to quite run it. We're going to go ahead and type defrag and click Defragment and Optimize Drives. Now, this is my hard drive here, C, and you want to click Analyze. And it will go through and basically think of it like a bookshelf. The NTFS file system is what Windows uses as its bookshelf to organize files on your computer's hard drive. And that's called a file system, but you can basically think of it like a bookshelf. So what happens is over time we use our bookshelf and we put the books back in a different order and we, have trouble finding them. So it takes longer to find them. It's the same thing that Windows is doing when it's taking files off parts of your hard drive and putting them back in different places, forgetting where it put them, etc. And because of that, it needs to, look harder and your performance will be lower. I mean, I've seen fragmented hard drives as much as 80% of that hard drive was fragmented, and the performance was horribly slow. So you do want to do this regularly. Now, what you would do at that point, and as you can see, it is being optimized automatically, so most times this isn't needed, but you would just hit Optimize, and then it would start to defragment your hard drive's file system. We're not going to do that here. I'm going to hit Close on that. The last thing I want to show you is updates. So we're going to go ahead one more time, down to here, type Update, check for updates under System Settings. And we want to go ahead and once this loads up, you'll have to excuse the speed there. We want to just check for updates. And then basically, this will run, and when it finds updates, it will start to download and install them. But this is important for security as well. In this case, we're fine. We don't need any updates. So we're going to exit out of there. One last note. If you do want to be safer when you're doing things like sending email and browsing the web, I'd recommend installing AVG Free or Avast, their free edition. Those are pretty good antivirus programs. You can also install malware programs. You search for things like Malware Bytes, so MALWAREBYTES. That's a good program for the malware side of things. As well, though, do regular backups to external hard drives or cloud storage, because this protects against ransomware, and if you don't have the files on the computer, you can delete them there if you want and save space on your computer for day-to-day use. But other than that, those are some strategies I personally use to keep my Windows computer running well. So I do hope this helped you. I hope it was enjoyable, and as always, this is Tyler with T-Tech.